The morning sun gleamed over the bustling airport as passengers hurried through security, eager to reach their destinations. Among them was the Johnson family. Derek, a charismatic entrepreneur in his late 40s. His wife, Angela, a poised and accomplished lawyer. And their precocious 8-year-old daughter, Amara, with her cherished teddy bear in tow. They were en route to a family retreat, a rare break from their demanding schedules. The family's calm demeanor stood in stark contrast to the chaotic terminal around them. Dressed in casual but elegant attire, their warmth and ease drew glances, though not all of them kind. They noticed, as they often did, the side eyes, the subtle shifts in body language, signs that prejudice still simmered beneath the surface of society. When it was time to board, the family joined the priority line, smiles on their faces. Amara giggled, pointing out the towering planes outside the window. It was a moment of joy until a clipped voice interrupted. "Excuse me, sir," said a flight attendant, her tone steely and cold. She wore a polished uniform, her name tag reading Kelsey Morgan. "You're in the wrong line. Economy passengers need to wait until their group is called." Derek's brow furrowed, and he replied evenly, "We're flying first class." Kelsey's gaze flickered with skepticism. "I'll need to see your boarding passes," she demanded, her voice rising slightly, drawing the attention of other passengers. Angela sighed, pulling the tickets from her bag. "Is there a problem?" she asked, keeping her tone civil, despite the rising tension. But Kelsey's demeanor remained icy. She scrutinized the tickets for longer than necessary, then snapped, "These must have been a mistake. I'm going to need to verify these with the gate agent." Passengers began whispering, the air thick with unease. Amara clung to her father's leg, her small face etched with confusion. Despite showing patience and politeness, the Johnsons were met with growing hostility. Before they knew it, Kelsey called security, claiming the family was being uncooperative. The situation escalated, ending with the Johnsons being removed from the plane in front of everyone. Little did Kelsey know, the very plane she so fiercely guarded was part of an airline owned by none other than the Johnson family. The Johnson family stood on the tarmac near the boarding gate, flanked by 2 airport security officers. The warm sunlight did little to ease the chill of humiliation they felt. Around them, curious passengers peered through the terminal windows, some snapping photos with their phones. Amara's soft sobs broke the heavy silence. "Mommy, why did they say we can't fly?" Amara asked, clutching her teddy bear tightly. Angela knelt beside her daughter, brushing tears from the little girl's cheeks. "Sometimes people make mistakes, sweetheart," she said gently, though her eyes betrayed a storm of emotions. Derek, usually a man of unshakable composure, was livid. His jaw tightened as he scanned the crowd behind the glass. He saw Kelsey inside, speaking animatedly to another flight attendant, her face a mix of smugness and self-assurance. She had no idea the consequences of her actions were far greater than she imagined. Angela placed a hand on Derek's arm, sensing his fury. "We'll handle this the right way," she said softly. "Let's stay calm for Amara." Derek nodded, exhaling deeply. He had worked too hard and overcome too much in life to let someone like Kelsey derail their dignity. "You're right. But this isn't over." Inside the terminal, Kelsey felt a flush of satisfaction as she returned to her duties. In her mind, she had enforced the rules, standing firm against what she perceived as an entitled family trying to cheat the system. She didn't notice her supervisor approaching until his stern voice cut through her thoughts. "Kelsey, can I have a word?" Turning, she saw Mr. Harris, a senior operations manager, looking less than pleased. His sharp suit and no-nonsense demeanor made her stomach tighten. "Of course, sir," she replied, following him to a small office. Once inside, Harris didn't waste time. "I just received a call from corporate," he began, his tone clipped. "It appears there was a misunderstanding involving the Johnson family, the owners of Skylex Airlines." Kelsey froze. "Owners?" she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Harris confirmed, narrowing his eyes. "The family you just had escorted off the plane owns the entire airline." He leaned closer, his voice lowering dangerously. "I want to know exactly what happened," Kelsey stammered, her confidence unraveling. I thought they were being deceptive. They didn't look. She stopped herself too late. Harris's expression darkened. Didn't look like what? Like people who belong in first class? His tone dripped with disdain. Back at the gate, the Johnsons were escorted to a private lounge by another airline representative, an apologetic young man named Mark. "Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, I deeply regret what happened," he said, his face flushed with embarrassment. "We're arranging for a private jet to take you to your destination." Derek waved him off. "That won't be necessary," he said firmly. "What I want is an explanation for how this could happen," Angela added, "and an assurance that it won't happen to anyone else." Her voice was calm, but carried an unmistakable edge. Mark swallowed nervously. "I'll escalate this to the highest levels, ma'am. You have my word." As they waited, Derek and Angela reflected on the deeper implications of the incident. This wasn't just about their personal embarrassment. It was about a systemic issue that couldn't be ignored. "People like Kelsey think they can treat us differently because of their biases," Angela said, her voice tinged with frustration. "We've worked so hard to break these barriers, and still." Derek placed a hand over hers. "This is exactly why we have to make an example of this. Not for revenge, but to show people that they can't act this way without consequences." Meanwhile, Kelsey's day took a sharp turn. Harris had called an emergency meeting with her and other senior staff members. She tried to defend herself, but her excuses fell flat under the weight of her own prejudices. "I thought I was following protocol," she said, her voice trembling. "Protocol doesn't include singling out passengers based on your assumptions," Harris snapped. "This is going straight to corporate. I suggest you prepare for the fallout." By the time Harris left the room, Kelsey was in tears. But her remorse came too late. Word of the incident had already reached social media. Videos of the Johnson family being removed from the plane were going viral, sparking outrage. That evening, Derek and Angela received a call from Skylex's CEO, who profusely apologized for the incident and promised swift action. "This behavior is unacceptable and does not reflect our company's values," he said. But for Derek and Angela, apologies weren't enough. They decided to take matters into their own hands, using their platform to shed light on the broader issues at play. "Let's host a press conference," Derek suggested. "We'll share our story, but we'll also talk about the changes we're implementing within Skylex to ensure this doesn't happen again." Angela nodded. "We'll turn this into something bigger than just us." It's about accountability and change. As the family prepared for what lay ahead, Kelsey faced an uncertain future. Little did she know, her actions had sparked a movement that would challenge the airline industry's handling of discrimination, one led by the very people she underestimated. The Johnson family sat in their private lounge, the sterile hum of the airport muffled by the thick glass walls. While Amara slept on a plush couch, Derek and Angela strategized their next steps. They weren't the type to sit idle in the face of injustice, and this incident had ignited something larger in them, a renewed determination to challenge systemic inequities. Derek's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen, noticing dozens of notifications. News outlets had picked up the story, and the video of their removal was spreading like wildfire. Headlines like "Family Kicked Off Plane Due to Mistake" by airline staff, and "Billionaire Black Owners of Skylex Airlines Face Racial Discrimination" filled his feed. Angela, scrolling through her own phone, sighed. People are angry. Some are calling for Kelsey to be fired immediately. Others are sharing their own experiences of similar treatment. "This isn't just about us anymore, Derek." He nodded thoughtfully. "We've always said our work isn't just about running a business. It's about creating opportunities and breaking barriers. Now's our chance to prove it." Angela smiled faintly. "Then let's make it count." Meanwhile, Kelsey sat in the break room, her hands shaking as she scrolled through her phone. The comments on the video were brutal. "This is exactly what Black families deal with every day. How did she think this was okay? Fire her immediately. She shouldn't have any power over passengers." Her colleagues avoided her gaze as they walked past, whispering to one another. The weight of her actions sank in. She had acted on her assumptions, and now the whole world was holding her accountable. When Harris entered the break room, Kelsey jumped to her feet. "Mr. Harris, he cut her off with a raised hand. "Save it. Corporate has already launched a full investigation. I suggest you cooperate if you want any chance of keeping your job." Her stomach twisted. "I didn't mean to." Harris's expression hardened. "What you meant doesn't matter. What matters is what you did." He stepped closer, his voice low. "And you didn't just discriminate against any passengers. You targeted the family that built this airline from the ground up." The next morning, the Johnsons were back home in Atlanta, seated in their spacious living room. Derek, dressed in a sharp suit, prepared for the press conference they had planned. Angela wore a navy blue blazer, her calm demeanor masking the fire in her heart. Amara, now fully aware of the situation, looked up at her parents. "Are we going to tell everyone what happened?" she asked. Angela crouched down to meet her daughter's eyes. "Yes, sweetie. We're going to tell our story, so other people don't have to go through what we did." Amara nodded solemnly. "Will the mean lady be there?" "No," Derek said gently, "but she'll know we're speaking up." The press conference took place in a sleek conference room at the Skylex corporate headquarters. Cameras flashed as the Johnsons took their seats, and journalists leaned forward, eager for a statement. Derek began, his voice steady and powerful. "Good morning. My name is Derek Johnson, and this is my wife Angela. Together, we built Skylex Airlines to provide an inclusive and exceptional travel experience for all passengers, regardless of their background." Angela took over, her words precise and deliberate. "Unfortunately, this week, we experienced firsthand the type of discrimination that millions face every day. We were judged not by our character or credentials, but by the color of our skin. That judgment led to an incident that was not only humiliating, but also deeply concerning." The room fell silent as Derek continued. "This isn't just about our family. It's about the systemic biases that exist in society and how they manifest in the workplace. As owners of Skylex, we're committed to addressing these issues head-on." Angela outlined their plan. "Effective immediately, we will implement mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all Skylex employees, starting with senior staff. Additionally, we're establishing a task force to ensure accountability at every level of the organization. Finally, we're pledging $5 million to organizations dedicated to combating racial discrimination in the travel and hospitality industries." The reporters buzzed with questions, but one voice rose above the others. "What about the employee who removed your family from the plane? Will she face consequences?" Derek paused, his expression thoughtful. "Accountability is necessary," he said, "but so is growth. We believe in creating opportunities for people to learn and change. While her actions were unacceptable, we hope she uses this as a chance to reflect and improve. That's the kind of culture we want at Skylex, one of progress and redemption." As the press conference concluded, the Johnsons felt a sense of accomplishment. They had turned a personal affront into a moment of empowerment, not just for themselves, but for countless others who had endured similar injustices. Back at her apartment, Kelsey watched the press conference live. Tears streamed down her face as she listened to Derek and Angela speak with dignity and grace. For the first time, she saw beyond her own biases and began to understand the weight of her actions. The seeds of change had been planted, but the journey was far from over. The press conference sent ripples through the media, social networks, and corporate boardrooms across the country. Clips of Derek and Angela's poised statements dominated news cycles, sparking heated debates about racial bias in customer service industries. The Johnson family had struck a nerve, and their story became a rallying cry for change. The fallout from the incident was immediate. Corporate executives scrambled to address the backlash, their efforts overseen by the CEO, Richard Carver. A seasoned leader in his 60s, Carver had worked closely with Derek and Angela since the airline's inception. He wasn't just their business partner, he was a staunch ally. "Damage control is critical," Carver said during a high-stakes meeting with senior executives. "We need to show the public we're serious about addressing this issue. No half measures." Harris, who had been instrumental in uncovering the details of Kelsey's actions, chimed in. We've identified gaps in our training programs and hiring processes. Those need immediate overhauls. And what about Kelsey Morgan? Another executive asked. Carver's face tightened. She'll be suspended pending the investigation. But I want to ensure this isn't just about one employee. This is systemic, and we'll tackle it as such. That's the only way we rebuild trust. The suspension hit Kelsey hard. She'd been summoned to Carver's office, where she sat stiffly as the CEO outlined her fate. You'll be placed on unpaid leave while we complete the investigation, Carver said, his tone professional but firm. Depending on the findings, further disciplinary action, including termination, is possible. Kelsey nodded numbly, unable to meet his eyes. She had no defense. The evidence was clear. Her biases had led to a grossly unjust decision. As she packed her belongings that afternoon, her coworkers avoided her. Some whispered, others stared openly. The weight of public scorn and personal guilt was almost unbearable. The Johnson family's press conference ignited a broader conversation about discrimination. Activists, celebrities, and everyday people shared their own stories of being mistreated while traveling, and hashtags like #TravelEquality and #SkyLuxChange trended for days. Angela scrolled through her phone late one evening, reading the stories people shared. It's overwhelming, she said to Derek, setting the device down. But it's also inspiring. This is why we spoke up, Derek nodded. We've made waves. But now it's time to make sure they don't settle. Change doesn't happen without sustained pressure. Within days, Skylux's newly formed Diversity and Inclusion Task Force held its first meeting. Angela had insisted on being involved, using her legal expertise to ensure the initiative had real teeth. Good intentions mean nothing without action, Angela said, addressing the group. This task force isn't here to issue platitudes. We're here to make measurable, enforceable changes. The task force's first recommendations included 1. Mandatory training, quarterly sessions for all employees, focusing on implicit bias and inclusive practices. 2. Incident reporting system, a streamlined process for passengers and employees to report discrimination or misconduct. 3. Diversity metrics, annual audits to assess diversity within Skylux's workforce and leadership teams. Not everyone supported the Johnsons' efforts. Some critics accused them of overreacting, claiming the incident had been blown out of proportion. Others argued that mandatory training was unnecessary, calling it corporate overreach. Derek, however, refused to be deterred. Resistance is part of the process, he told Angela during a strategy session. The louder the opposition, the clearer it is that we're doing something meaningful. Support for the Johnsons far outweighed the backlash. Letters poured into their office from passengers who appreciated their stand, and several major airlines announced they were implementing similar initiatives. As the investigation unfolded, Kelsey found herself with ample time to reflect. She spent days reading about racial bias, something she had dismissed as overblown before. The stories she encountered were painful, echoing the exact behavior she had exhibited. One evening, she watched a recording of the Johnsons' press conference. Seeing Derek and Angela speak with such grace and resolve made her realize the depth of her mistake. I need to own this, she whispered to herself. A week later, the Johnsons received a letter. Angela opened it, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the text. Who's it from? Derek asked. Kelsey Morgan. Angela replied, surprised. The letter was heartfelt and apologetic. Kelsey wrote about her ignorance, her regret, and the steps she was taking to educate herself. I know I've caused you pain, the letter read. I can't undo that, but I hope I can learn from this and become a better person. Angela handed the letter to Derek. Do you think she's sincere? He read it over, his expression thoughtful. Maybe. If she's willing to take action, we should give her the chance to prove it. Kelsey's suspension ended with a demotion and a new role, assisting the Diversity and Inclusion Task Force. She was given the opportunity to help implement the changes she had once unknowingly undermined. Under Angela's watchful eye, Kelsey worked diligently, driven by a genuine desire to make amends. Though some remained skeptical, her efforts slowly began to earn respect. The incident had set off a chain reaction of change, not only within Skylex Airlines, but across the industry. And for the Johnson family, it reaffirmed their commitment to building a world where fairness and inclusion weren't just ideals but realities. The weeks following the press conference were a whirlwind for the Johnsons. Their decision to turn the incident into a catalyst for change was met with both praise and resistance. Yet, they remained steadfast in their mission, using the momentum to spearhead industry-wide initiatives. The Skylex Diversity and Inclusion Task Force released its first report just 6 weeks after its formation. The document detailed the initial findings on the airline's internal culture, revealing both strengths and critical weaknesses. Key points included underrepresentation in leadership. Less than 10% of senior management roles were held by people of color, despite Skylex's commitment to diversity. Customer service bias. A disproportionate number of complaints about discrimination came from Black and Latino passengers. Training deficiencies. Employee training programs lacked content addressing implicit bias, leaving employees ill-equipped to handle diverse situations. Angela reviewed the report with the task force during a high-level meeting. "These numbers are unacceptable," she said, her tone firm. "But they're not surprising. The good news is, we now have a baseline, and from here, we can build." The task force outlined several bold recommendations. 1. Inclusive hiring practices. A commitment to diversify senior management by implementing mentorship programs and outreach efforts. 2. Bias training expansion. Mandatory training for all employees, from executives to ground staff, with a focus on real-world scenarios. 3. Customer advocacy program. Establishing a team dedicated to addressing and resolving passenger complaints about discrimination. Angela's leadership was pivotal in transforming these recommendations into actionable steps. Her no-nonsense approach earned the respect of her peers and set the tone for Skylex's new era. Skylex's bold moves caught the attention of other airlines. Competitors like Aerojet and Cloudline announced similar initiatives, hoping to avoid public scrutiny. The airline industry, long criticized for its lack of diversity, now faced growing pressure to adapt. Derek and Angela were invited to speak at industry conferences and panels, sharing their vision for a more inclusive future. Derek's charismatic storytelling and Angela's sharp insights captivated audiences, making them the face of a movement that extended far beyond their own company. Not everyone embraced the changes. Skylex faced backlash from employees and customers resistant to the new policies. Some argued that the focus on diversity was unnecessary, even divisive. Derek addressed these concerns during a company-wide town hall meeting. "This isn't about dividing us," he said. "It's about uniting us under a shared commitment to fairness and respect." These changes will make Skylex stronger, not weaker, despite his assurances. The backlash persisted. Anonymous letters criticizing the Johnsons' leadership began circulating among employees, and certain executives privately questioned the pace of the reforms. Angela remained unshaken. "Resistance means we're making an impact," she told Derek one evening. "It's uncomfortable because it's necessary." Kelsey Morgan's demotion and placement on the task force had been controversial, but under Angela's mentorship, she began to transform. One day, during a task force meeting, Kelsey spoke up for the first time. "I've been reviewing past complaints," she said, "and I noticed a pattern. Many involve employees who've been with the company for years, but have never received proper training. They're not just biased, they're uninformed." Her insights surprised the room. Angela nodded thoughtfully. "That's a good observation, Kelsey. Let's explore how we can better reach long-term employees." Outside the meetings, Kelsey went above and beyond to educate herself. She attended workshops on racial equity, read books on systemic discrimination, and even volunteered at local organizations focused on diversity advocacy. While some colleagues remained skeptical of her sincerity, others began to see her as an ally. For Kelsey, the journey wasn't just about redemption, it was about becoming a better person. The new policies faced their first major test when a passenger filed a discrimination complaint against a flight attendant. The passenger, a young woman of Middle Eastern descent, claimed she was unfairly targeted for extra security screenings and rude treatment during boarding. In the past, such complaints were often brushed aside. This time, however, the response was swift and decisive. Angela personally reviewed the case, ensuring the investigation was thorough and transparent. Within days, the flight attendant in question was suspended, and the passenger received a formal apology and compensation. The incident highlighted the importance of the changes the Johnsons had implemented, reinforcing their commitment to accountability. Months later, Skylex unveiled a new marketing campaign, "Everyone Belongs Here." The campaign featured diverse passengers and employees, celebrating the airline's commitment to inclusivity. Derek and Angela starred in a promotional video, addressing viewers directly. "At Skylex, we believe travel should unite us, not divide us," Angela said. The campaign resonated deeply, earning praise from customers and industry leaders alike. At an internal Skylex event celebrating the campaign's success, Angela invited Kelsey to speak. It was an unexpected gesture, but one that reflected Angela's belief in growth and second chances. Kelsey stood nervously before the crowd. "A few months ago, I made a terrible mistake," she began. "I acted out of ignorance and bias, and I hurt people who didn't deserve it. But that mistake taught me something important. Change starts with owning our failures." Her speech was met with polite applause, and though she still had a long way to go, Kelsey felt a sense of hope. As Skylex continued to evolve, Derek and Angela reflected on how far they'd come. The incident that had once humiliated them had become a turning point, not just for their airline, but for the industry as a whole. "Change is never easy," Angela said one evening as they watched Amara play in their backyard. "But it's worth it," Derek smiled. "And we're just getting started." The Johnsons' efforts to transform Skylex Airlines continued to ripple across the industry, but the road to progress was anything but smooth. The family faced not only public scrutiny and resistance from within the company, but also challenges that tested their personal resilience and unity. While many employees embraced the new initiatives, others quietly resisted. A small but vocal faction within Skylex's workforce viewed the reforms as excessive, arguing that the focus on diversity undermined merit and tradition. This group began organizing anonymously, spreading dissent through private chats and forums. Angela became aware of the growing unrest during a leadership meeting when Harris presented her with a report. "We've intercepted several anonymous messages criticizing the task force's initiatives," he said. "Some employees are even threatening to leave if these changes continue." Angela scanned the report, her jaw tightening. "It's no surprise," she said. "Change always meets resistance. But we can't let fear of backlash dictate our progress." Derek agreed. "We need to address this head-on. Let's organize town hall meetings with employees. We'll listen to their concerns, but also reinforce why these changes are non-negotiable." The meetings were tense. In one session, a veteran pilot stood up, his voice laced with frustration. "I've been with this airline for 25 years, he said, "and now you're telling me I need to sit through hours of training because someone else made a mistake. How is that fair?" Angela responded calmly but firmly. "This isn't about assigning blame, it's about ensuring that everyone, including our most experienced staff, has the tools to serve our passengers with respect and empathy. Your expertise is invaluable, but the world is changing, and we need to change with it." Some employees left the meetings with a new perspective, while others remained unconvinced. The Johnsons knew the path forward would require patience and perseverance. As Skylex earned accolades for its bold initiatives, competitors began to view the airline not just as an innovator, but as a threat. Rival companies like Aerojet launched campaigns subtly critiquing Skylex's approach. One ad featured the tagline, "Focusing on passengers, not politics," a thinly veiled jab at Skylex's reforms. Derek wasn't fazed. "Let them talk," he told Angela during a strategy session. "We're setting the standard. They're just trying to catch up." But behind the scenes, the competition grew fiercer. Aerojet began offering aggressive discounts and loyalty perks, hoping to lure Skylex's customers away. Angela, ever the strategist, devised a countermeasure. We'll double down on what sets us apart, she said. Exceptional service, inclusivity, and a brand people can trust. Let's also highlight our investments in communities, something Aerojet can't replicate. Skylux launched a series of community-focused initiatives, including scholarships for aspiring pilots from underrepresented backgrounds and partnerships with local organizations. The strategy not only solidified customer loyalty, but also reinforced the Johnsons' commitment to their mission. The intense focus on Skylux began to strain the Johnsons' family life. Derek and Angela spent long hours in meetings and traveling, leaving little time for Amara, who often asked when things would return to normal. One evening, as Derek tucked Amara into bed, she asked, "Daddy, why do you and Mommy work so much now? Don't you like spending time with me anymore?" The question hit Derek like a punch to the gut. "Oh, sweetheart," he said, sitting on the edge of her bed. "Mommy and I love you more than anything. We're working hard because we want to make the world a better place for you and for everyone." Amara frowned. "But I just want you here." Derek hugged her tightly, promising to make more time. That night, he and Angela had a long conversation about balancing their professional and personal lives. They decided to carve out dedicated family time each week, no matter how busy things became. Kelsey's role in the task force brought her closer to Angela, who became an unexpected mentor. During a casual coffee meeting, Kelsey confided in Angela. "I never realized how much I didn't know," Kelsey admitted. "I thought I was being fair before, but I see now how blind I was to my own biases." Angela nodded. "Acknowledging that is the first step. Growth isn't easy, but it's worth it." Kelsey took those words to heart. She began volunteering to speak at training sessions, sharing her own story as a cautionary tale. Her vulnerability resonated with employees, slowly helping to shift the culture at Skylux. Just as Skylux's reforms seemed to be gaining traction, a new controversy erupted. A former executive who had left the company shortly after the Johnsons' press conference published a scathing op-ed accusing Skylux of prioritizing wokeness over profitability. The article went viral, reigniting debates about the airline's direction. Critics seized the opportunity to question the Johnsons' leadership, while supporters rallied to defend their vision. Derek responded with characteristic composure. In a televised interview, he addressed the criticism directly. "Profitability and progress aren't mutually exclusive," he said. "We're proving that doing what's right can also be good for business. Skylux is thriving because our passengers see that we're committed to treating everyone with respect. That's a legacy worth building." The interview silenced many critics and solidified Derek's reputation as a visionary leader. Amara's school hosted a career day, and Derek and Angela made time to attend. Standing before a room of eager children, they shared the story of how they built Skylux and turned a painful experience into a force for good. When it was Amara's turn to speak, she stood proudly and said, "My mommy and daddy help make airplanes so everyone feels welcome. That's why they're the best." Her words brought tears to their eyes, reminding them why they fought so hard. As Skylux, Airline solidified its reputation as an inclusive and forward-thinking company. New challenges emerged, threatening to unravel the progress the Johnsons had fought so hard to achieve. From internal sabotage to unexpected alliances, the path forward proved more treacherous than ever. The anonymous dissenters within Skylux grew bolder, emboldened by the former executive's viral op-ed. They began sabotaging initiatives, quietly skipping diversity training sessions, mishandling customer complaints, and sowing doubt among employees. Angela received an alarming email from Harris late one evening. "We've identified a coordinated effort to undermine the new policies," he wrote. "It seems some employees are intentionally creating issues to discredit the task force." Furious, Angela convened an emergency meeting with Derek and Harris the following morning. "This isn't just resistance, it's sabotage," she said. "We need to root this out now." Harris nodded. "We've narrowed it down to a handful of employees, but confronting them could escalate things." Derek, ever the strategist, leaned back in his chair. "Then we handle this carefully. Let's start by reinforcing accountability across." Derek leaned back in his chair, his sharp gaze fixed on Harris. "Let's start by reinforcing accountability across the board," he said, not just for dissenters, but for everyone. We need to make it clear that these changes are non-negotiable, and any sabotage will be met with consequences. Angela nodded. And we'll do it in a way that doesn't alienate employees who are genuinely trying to adjust. We need transparency, communication, and consistent enforcement of the new policies. The team devised a multi-step approach to address the issue. First, they introduced anonymous reporting mechanisms, encouraging employees to speak up about any misconduct. Second, they launched a leadership accountability program, requiring the team devised a multi-step approach to address the issue. First, they introduced anonymous reporting mechanisms, encouraging employees to speak up about any misconduct or sabotage. Second, they launched a leadership accountability program, requiring managers and senior staff to set an example by completing advanced training and mentoring sessions. Finally, they scheduled open forums where employees could voice their concerns directly to the Johnsons and the task force, creating a space for constructive dialogue. The anonymous reporting system yielded immediate results. Within days, several whistleblowers came forward, exposing a small group of employees actively working to undermine the task force's initiatives. Angela and Harris reviewed the evidence carefully before taking action. When confronted, the dissenters' 4 mid-level managers tried to defend their actions as preserving company traditions, but Angela's response was swift and unequivocal. Skylex's traditions are built on excellence and inclusivity, she said during a disciplinary hearing. What you've done goes against everything this company stands for. This behavior will not be tolerated. 3 of the employees were terminated, while the 4th, who showed genuine remorse, was demoted and placed under mentorship. The decisive action sent a clear message. Skylex was committed to its mission, and sabotage would not be ignored. While navigating internal conflicts, the Johnsons received a surprising phone call from Amanda Collins, the CEO of Aerojet. Known for her fierce competitiveness, Amanda had been one of Skylex's most vocal critics. "I'd like to meet," Amanda said, her voice measured. "Not as rivals, but as leaders who share a common challenge, curious but cautious." Derek and Angela agreed to a meeting. They met Amanda at a neutral location, a sleek, modern conference room in Chicago. Amanda didn't waste time. "Your efforts at Skylex are shaking up the industry," she began. "I've resisted them publicly, but privately, I admire what you're doing. The truth is, we're facing similar challenges at Aerojet, and I think we can learn from each other." Angela raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying you want to collaborate?" Amanda nodded. "Yes. The airline industry is under a microscope, and if we work together to set new standards, we can lead the way instead of reacting to public outcry." Though skeptical at first, the Johnsons saw value in the partnership. They agreed to co-host an industry summit on diversity and inclusion, inviting leaders from major airlines to share best practices and develop industry-wide guidelines. The summit, held in Washington, D.C., was a groundbreaking event. Derek and Amanda shared the stage during the keynote, presenting a united front that stunned attendees. For Angela, it was a powerful reminder that even competitors could find common ground when working toward a greater good. Despite the strides they were making professionally, the Johnsons couldn't ignore the growing strain on their family. Amara, though supportive in her own way, often felt the weight of her parents' busy schedules. One evening, after returning home late from a meeting, Angela found a drawing on the kitchen table. It was a crayon illustration of their family, with Amara standing alone while Derek and Angela worked at desks. Underneath, in her childlike handwriting, Amara had written, "I miss you." Angela's heart sank. She called Derek into the room, showing him the drawing. "We're doing all of this for her future," Angela said softly, "but we can't lose her in the process." Derek hugged her, his voice heavy with emotion. "You're right. We need to make more time for her starting now." The next weekend, they surprised Amara with a family day at the park. They left their phones at home, spending hours playing, laughing, and reconnecting. For the Johnsons, it was a reminder that while their work was important, their family was their foundation. The collaboration with Aerojet and the success of the summit had far-reaching effects. Airlines across the globe began adopting the guidelines developed at the event, introducing comprehensive diversity training and new passenger advocacy programs. Skylex continued to lead the way, launching mentorship programs for employees from underrepresented backgrounds and forming partnerships with organizations that championed inclusivity in travel. Passengers noticed the difference. A survey conducted 6 months after the reforms showed a significant increase in customer satisfaction, with many citing the airline's inclusive culture as a deciding factor in their loyalty. For Derek and Angela, these victories were deeply satisfying, but they also knew the fight wasn't over. Change isn't a destination, Angela said during a board meeting. It's a journey, and we're just getting started. Kelsey Morgan, once the face of Skylex's failure, had transformed into one of its strongest advocates. She took on a leadership role in the task force, earning the trust and respect of her colleagues. One day, while leading a training session, she shared her story. "I was the problem," she said candidly, "but I chose to learn and grow. And now I'm part of the solution. If I can change, anyone can." Her words resonated deeply, inspiring others to reflect on their own biases and behaviors. For Kelsey, it was a moment of redemption she never thought possible. The Johnsons had turned a painful experience into a movement that reshaped not only their airline, but the entire industry. Yet, they remained humble, grounded by their shared vision and the love of their daughter. As Derek often said, the skies aren't just for flying, they're for bringing people together. As Skylex Airlines continued to cement its position as a leader in diversity and innovation, Derek and Angela faced unexpected personal and professional challenges that tested their resilience. While they had successfully turned their ordeal into a catalyst for change, new pressures emerged, threatening to undo their progress. The implementation of Skylex's sweeping reforms was not without its casualties. Some of the airline's longest-serving executives, resistant to the rapid changes, began resigning. Among them was Mark Grayson, Skylex's chief operating officer, whose departure left a significant leadership void. During a board meeting, Harris broke the news. "Grayson's resignation is effective immediately," he said. He cited philosophical differences with the direction of the company. Derek exchanged a glance with Angela. Grayson had been a key figure in Skylex's early success, but his departure highlighted the growing divide between old and new leadership. Angela spoke up. "We need to see this as an opportunity. Let's bring in fresh talent, people who align with our vision and can help us navigate this next phase." The board agreed, and the search for a new COO began. After an exhaustive process, they selected Priya Mehta, a rising star in the aviation industry known for her innovative approach and commitment to equity. Priya's appointment sent a strong message, but it also raised the stakes. Her bold ideas often clashed with the more conservative members of the board, creating tensions that Derek and Angela had to mediate carefully. As Skylex gained prominence, Derek and Angela found themselves under constant scrutiny. Their every move was analyzed, praised, or criticized by the media and the public. For Angela, the pressure became especially intense. One evening, as she reviewed proposals for Skylex's new mentorship program, Angela felt an overwhelming wave of exhaustion. She leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. "You've been working nonstop," Derek said, entering her office with a cup of tea. "You need a break," Angela sighed. "There's too much to do. If I slow down, something might fall apart." Derek knelt beside her, placing a hand on her knee. "We're in this together. You don't have to carry it all by yourself." Reluctant, Angela agreed to delegate more responsibilities, entrusting Priya and Harris with greater authority. The move not only eased her burden, but also empowered Skylex's leadership team, fostering a sense of shared ownership. While Derek and Angela navigated the pressures of leadership, their daughter Amara began to find her own voice. At school, she became deeply interested in environmental science, inspired by a class project on sustainability. One evening at dinner, Amara announced, "I think Skylex should have eco-friendly planes." Derek chuckled. "That's a big idea, sweetheart." Angela smiled. "It's a great idea. Sustainability is the future," Amara's suggestion sparked a discussion that carried over into Skylex's boardroom. The airline had already taken steps to reduce its carbon footprint, but Amara's enthusiasm inspired Derek and Angela to explore more ambitious goals. Skylex partnered with a leading aerospace company to develop fuel-efficient aircraft and implemented a program to offset carbon emissions from flights. They named the initiative Skylex Green Horizons, and Amara became its unofficial ambassador, proudly sharing updates with her classmates. Skylex's success made it a target for aggressive competition. Aerojet, once an unlikely ally, shifted its strategy to regain market share. It launched a campaign emphasizing speed and affordability, drawing customers away from Skylex's higher-end services. Derek and Angela convened their marketing team to respond. "We need to remind passengers why they choose Skylex," Angela said. "It's not just about getting from point A to point B, it's about how they're treated along the way." The team launched a bold new campaign, Fly Better, Feel Better, highlighting Skylex's exceptional service, inclusivity, and commitment to sustainability. The campaign featured testimonials from passengers who had experienced transformative moments aboard Skylex flights, including families reuniting, individuals overcoming fears, and travelers feeling genuinely valued for the first time. The campaign struck a chord, and Skylex regained its momentum. Just as the Johnsons were beginning to feel a sense of stability, they received shocking news. Harris had been offered a lucrative position at a rival airline. At a farewell dinner, Harris admitted his decision had been difficult. "I believe in what you're doing here," he told Derek and Angela. "But this new role is a chance to build something from the ground up." Though saddened by his departure, the Johnsons wished Harris well. His exit marked the end of an era, but it also opened the door for Skylex to further diversify its leadership team. Months later, during a flight to New York for a major industry event, Angela noticed a familiar face among the flight attendants, Kelsey Morgan. "Kelsey," Angela said warmly as she passed through the aisle. "It's good to see you." Kelsey smiled, a mix of pride and humility in her expression. "Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. I've been working hard." After the flight, Kelsey approached Angela and Derek. "I just want to say how grateful I am for the chance you gave me. Your forgiveness changed my life." Angela placed a hand on Kelsey's shoulder. "You earned this, Kelsey. Keep proving to yourself and others what you're capable of." As Derek and Angela reflected on their journey, they realized how far they'd come not just as leaders, but as a family. They had turned adversity into opportunity, building a legacy that extended beyond the airline industry. For Amara, it was a lesson in resilience and the power of standing up for what's right. For Skylex, it was a testament to the transformative power of leadership, vision, and unwavering commitment to change. As the Johnsons continued their work with Skylex Airlines, new opportunities emerged, expanding their influence beyond the airline industry. From pioneering advancements in aviation technology to tackling broader societal challenges, Derek and Angela found themselves at the forefront of a movement for progress. But with greater reach came greater risks, forcing them to navigate uncharted territory. The success of Skylex in the United States inspired Derek and Angela to consider global opportunities. They identified markets in Africa, Asia, and South America where inclusive travel experiences were in high demand but underserved. During a strategy meeting, Priya Mehta, the newly appointed COO, outlined a bold expansion plan. "We'll start with routes connecting major hubs in Africa and Asia, emphasizing culturally tailored services," she said. "These regions represent untapped potential, and our approach could set a new standard." Angela agreed. "This isn't just about profit, it's about representation. Our presence in these markets can empower local communities and foster global connections." The first phase of the expansion launched in Nairobi, Kenya, with a state-of-the-art terminal designed to celebrate African art and culture. The opening ceremony was a grand affair, attended by dignitaries, media, and Skylex's leadership. Amara even gave a short speech, charming the audience with her youthful enthusiasm. "Our goal," Derek said during his keynote address, is to create an airline that reflects the beauty and diversity of the world we serve. The expansion was a resounding success, with passenger demand exceeding expectations. Skylex's approach to inclusivity and sustainability resonated deeply, earning the airline accolades and solidifying its reputation as a global leader. However, not everyone celebrated Skylex's success. A shadowy group of critics, emboldened by the anonymity of the internet, began targeting the airline with false allegations and smear campaigns. Accusations of unfair hiring practices and fabricated passenger complaints circulated widely, eroding public trust. One evening, as Derek and Angela reviewed the latest reports, their PR director, Lena Torres, joined them with grim news. "The attacks are coordinated," she said. "We've traced several accounts to bots, but there's a real group behind this. It's clear they want to damage Skylex's reputation." Derek leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Do we know who's funding this?" Lena hesitated. "We suspect it's linked to a rival airline trying to undermine our expansion efforts. But proving it will take time." Angela sighed. "Time is a luxury we don't have. If we don't address this quickly, the narrative could spiral out of control." They decided to take a proactive approach, launching a transparency campaign. Skylex opened its doors to independent auditors, allowing them to review hiring practices, passenger feedback systems, and sustainability efforts. The findings, published in a detailed report, vindicated the airline and exposed the smear campaign for what it was. Public opinion swung back in Skylex's favor, but the incident left the Johnsons wary. They realized their growing influence made them a target and vowed to remain vigilant. Amara's interest in sustainability continued to grow. One afternoon, while visiting Skylex's research and development facility, she watched engineers test a prototype for a hybrid electric plane. "Why can't all planes run on electricity?" she asked one of the engineers. The question sparked a conversation that eventually reached Derek and Angela. Inspired by Amara's curiosity, they decided to invest in cutting-edge research on electric aviation. Skylex partnered with a leading tech firm to develop the world's first fully electric short-haul aircraft. The project, dubbed Project Horizon, aimed to revolutionize air travel by making it cleaner, quieter, and more affordable. During the announcement of the initiative, Amara stood beside her parents, proudly holding a model of the prototype. "I just want to help the planet," she said when asked by a reporter about her involvement. Her innocent words captured the hearts of many, turning her into a symbol of Skylex's commitment to innovation and sustainability. While the Johnsons celebrated their successes, an unexpected health scare brought everything into perspective. During a routine checkup, Derek was diagnosed with high blood pressure and warned to reduce his stress levels. The news hit him hard. As a man who thrived on hard work and constant activity, the idea of slowing down felt foreign. But Angela insisted they take the warning seriously. "We've worked too hard to let this take you away from us," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Derek agreed to make changes, delegating more responsibilities to Priya and other senior leaders. He also began spending more time with his family, rediscovering the joy of simple moments with Angela and Amara. Months later, Derek and Angela attended an awards gala where Skylex was honored for its transformative impact on the airline industry. As they accepted the award, Derek took a moment to reflect. "This journey began with a moment of pain and injustice," he said, "but it taught us the power of resilience and the importance of using our platforms to create change." Skylex is more than an airline. It's a promise that everyone deserves dignity, respect, and opportunity. The audience rose in applause, a testament to the Johnsons' unwavering commitment to their vision. As Skylex soared to new heights, Derek and Angela began exploring ways to expand their influence beyond aviation. They established the Johnson Foundation, dedicated to promoting education, sustainability, and social equity worldwide. For Amara, the future seemed boundless. Inspired by her parents' example, she dreamed of one day leading her own initiatives to make the world a better place. And for the Johnsons, their journey was far from over. Together, they had proven that even in the face of adversity, it was possible to rise above innovate, and inspire. With Skylex Airlines thriving and their story inspiring millions, Derek and Angela shifted some of their focus to their latest venture, the Johnson Foundation. Their goal was ambitious, using the foundation to create meaningful, sustainable change in education, environmental innovation, and social equity. While their efforts brought hope and progress to many, the journey was fraught with new obstacles and revelations. The Johnson Foundation launched with three core initiatives. 1. Elevate Scholars Program, providing scholarships and mentorship opportunities for underrepresented students pursuing careers in STEM, aviation, and business. 2. Green Cities Project, partnering with urban planners and environmental organizations to create eco-friendly infrastructure in underserved communities. 3. Equity through Innovation, funding research and startups focused on tackling systemic inequalities with innovative solutions. The Foundation's inaugural event, held in Atlanta, attracted celebrities, thought leaders, and activists. Angela delivered a powerful speech during the gala, emphasizing their mission. Our foundation isn't just about giving, it's about creating opportunities for people to thrive, she said. Because when one person succeeds, their entire community benefits. The highlight of the evening was the announcement of the first Elevate Scholars, a diverse group of students from across the country. One of them, a 17-year-old named Jada Simmons, shared her story of overcoming poverty to pursue her dream of becoming an aerospace engineer. Thanks to this program, I can finally believe in a future where I belong in the skies, Jada said, her voice trembling with emotion. The audience erupted in applause, and Derek leaned over to Angela. This is why we do what we do, he whispered. As the foundation grew, so did the complexity of managing its initiatives. Derek and Angela quickly realized that running a nonprofit required a different skill set than leading a corporation. One major challenge came from the Green Cities Project, which faced resistance from local governments and private developers unwilling to prioritize sustainability over profit. In Chicago, a proposed eco-friendly housing development stalled due to bureaucratic red tape and opposition from powerful lobbying groups. Angela, drawing on her background as a lawyer, took the lead. She met with city officials, community leaders, and developers, working tirelessly to negotiate a compromise. "I'm not here to fight you," she told one skeptical official during a tense meeting. "I'm here to show you that what's good for the environment can also be good for business." Her persistence paid off, and the project finally broke ground. The first Green Cities neighborhood became a national model for sustainable urban living, featuring energy-efficient homes, community gardens, and renewable energy sources. While the foundation earned widespread praise, it also attracted critics. Some accused the Johnsons of using their philanthropy to overshadow the for-profit nature of Skylex. Others argued that their initiatives were overly ambitious and questioned their ability to deliver on such lofty promises. A scathing editorial titled "The Skylex Illusion: Are the Johnsons Overreaching?" circulated online, sparking heated debates on social media. Amara, now 10 years old, overheard her parents discussing the article. "Why are people being mean to us?" she asked one evening. Derek knelt beside her. "Sometimes when you try to do something big and important, not everyone will understand. But that doesn't mean you stop trying," Angela added. "The people we're helping, the students, the families, the communities, they're what matter, not the critics." Their words reassured Amara, but Derek and Angela knew they needed to address the concerns head-on. They doubled down on transparency, publishing detailed reports on the foundation's progress and inviting journalists to witness their projects firsthand. The move silenced many skeptics and further solidified their reputation as genuine changemakers. One of the most rewarding moments for the Johnsons came when Jada Simmons, the Elevate scholar they had first met at the gala, completed her first internship at Skylex. Jada, now a college sophomore, presented her research on sustainable aircraft design to the company's engineering team. Her passion and innovative ideas impressed everyone in the room, including Derek. After her presentation, Jada approached the Johnsons. "I wouldn't be here without you," she said, tears in her eyes. Derek shook his head. "You're here because of your talent and determination. We just gave you the chance you already deserved. Angela added, now it's your turn to lift others up. Just like you've been lifted. Jada nodded, her resolve strengthening. I will. The Johnson Foundation soon expanded its scope, tackling global challenges such as access to clean water, healthcare equity, and education in remote regions. They partnered with international organizations, launching projects in countries like Kenya, Brazil, and India. One particularly ambitious initiative involved deploying solar-powered classrooms in rural areas, enabling children without access to electricity to learn through digital tools. During a visit to one of these classrooms in Kenya, Amara joined a group of students as they explored an interactive science program. This is so cool, Amara exclaimed, her excitement infectious. Watching their daughter engage with the children, Derek and Angela felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Their work wasn't just changing lives, it was shaping a generation. Years later, as the Johnsons looked back on their journey, they marveled at how a single moment of adversity had propelled them toward a lifetime of purpose. Skylex Airlines had become more than an airline. It was a global brand synonymous with inclusivity, sustainability, and excellence. The Johnson Foundation had empowered thousands, transforming lives and communities around the world. And for Derek, Angela, and Amara, the most meaningful part of their legacy was the knowledge that they had stayed true to their values, proving that even the most challenging journeys could lead to extraordinary destinations. The Johnson family stood on the cusp of their greatest achievement yet, a global summit on equity and innovation, hosted by the Johnson Foundation in partnership with Skylex Airlines. Held in New York City, the event was designed to showcase the progress they had made while uniting world leaders, innovators, and activists to chart a bold path forward. The summit was more than an event. It was a culmination of years of struggle, resilience, and triumph. But just days before the opening ceremony, a shocking development threatened to unravel everything. Late one evening, Angela received an encrypted email from an anonymous whistleblower within Skylex. The email contained documents alleging that a senior manager in Skylex's procurement division had been accepting bribes from suppliers, funneling substandard materials into the company's supply chain. The implications were devastating. If the allegations were true, it meant that some of Skylex's newest aircraft, praised as models of sustainability and innovation, might not meet safety standards. Angela immediately called Derek and Priya. They gathered in the conference room at Skylex's headquarters, reviewing the documents with Harris, who had flown in to assist. This can't be real, Derek said, his voice tinged with disbelief. We've been meticulous about every aspect of these planes. Priya leaned forward. If even one of these allegations is true, we need to ground the affected planes immediately. Safety comes first, no matter the cost. Angela nodded. We also need to address this publicly before someone else leaks the story. Transparency has always been our cornerstone. We can't falter now. The next morning, Derek and Angela held an emergency press conference. Standing side by side, they faced a room packed with journalists. Derek began, his tone steady but resolute. Skylex Airlines has always prioritized the safety and well-being of our passengers. Yesterday, we received information suggesting that some of our aircraft may not meet the standards we demand. While these allegations are still under investigation, we are taking immediate action to ensure the integrity of our fleet. Angela continued, her voice unwavering. Effective immediately, we are grounding all planes potentially affected until thorough inspections are completed. This decision will disrupt travel plans, but we believe it is the only responsible course of action. We apologize for the inconvenience, and we are committed to restoring your trust. The transparency and decisiveness of their response earned widespread respect, even as the temporary grounding caused logistical chaos. Social media buzzed with both praise for their integrity and frustration over canceled flights. As the summit approached, Angela led the internal investigation with a sense of urgency. Working closely with Priya and Harris, she uncovered a network of corruption involving multiple suppliers and one high-ranking Skylex manager. The evidence was undeniable, and Angela took swift action. The manager was terminated, and Skylex filed lawsuits against the suppliers involved. The incident, though damaging, became a powerful lesson. At the summit's opening session, Derek addressed the issue head-on. "This week reminded us of the importance of vigilance," he said. "No system is immune to flaws, but how we respond defines who we are. We confronted this issue transparently, and we will emerge stronger because of it." The audience erupted in applause, inspired by his honesty and leadership. The highlight of the summit was a special panel on the future of sustainability, featuring a surprise speaker, 10-year-old Amara Johnson. Dressed in a tailored navy blue dress, Amara stepped onto the stage with confidence far beyond her years. She shared her dream of a cleaner, greener world and how her parents' work had inspired her. "I used to think airplanes were just big machines that took us on vacations," she said, eliciting chuckles from the audience. "But now I know they can be part of saving our planet." Her speech ended with a call to action. "If I can believe in a better future, so can you. Let's make it happen together." The audience gave her a standing ovation, and Derek and Angela, watching from the front row, couldn't hide their tears. As the summit concluded, the Johnsons received news that Skylex's grounded planes had passed all safety inspections. The company's swift actions had preserved its reputation, and passenger confidence remained high. The summit itself was hailed as a historic success, generating actionable commitments from governments and corporations to invest in equity and sustainability. Backstage after the closing ceremony, Angela and Derek shared a quiet moment. "We did it," Angela said, leaning against her husband. "Not just the summit, all of it. We turned a nightmare into something incredible." Derek smiled, pulling her close. "And we're just getting started." The Johnson family returned home to Atlanta, where they were greeted by a surprise celebration organized by Skylex employees. Priya, Harris, and Kelsey were among those who spoke, sharing heartfelt tributes to the Johnsons' leadership. Kelsey, now a respected voice in the company, said, "What I've learned from Derek and Angela is that leadership isn't about being perfect, it's about being accountable and inspiring others to grow." As the night ended, Derek and Angela reflected on their journey. They had faced adversity, discrimination, and challenges that tested their resolve. Yet, through it all, they had remained true to their values, building not just an airline or a foundation, but a legacy of hope, resilience, and impact. As the years passed, the Johnsons' influence continued to grow, touching lives far beyond the airline industry. Skylex Airlines, once a symbol of personal struggle and triumph, became a global leader not just in travel, but in what it meant to create an inclusive and sustainable world. The Johnson Foundation expanded its reach, empowering countless individuals and communities. But for Derek, Angela, and Amara, the true measure of success wasn't in awards or accolades. It was in the lives they changed and the legacy they built together. Skylex Airlines had become a household name, synonymous with innovation, inclusivity, and excellence. Its fleet now included fully electric short-haul planes developed through Project Horizon, fulfilling Amara's childhood dream of greener aviation. The Skylex Green Horizons initiative inspired other airlines to invest in sustainable technologies, reducing the industry's carbon footprint. Angela and Derek also implemented programs to improve employee welfare, including flexible schedules, mental health resources, and equitable pay structures. Skylex became one of the most sought-after places to work, with employees feeling valued and empowered. Customer loyalty remained unwavering, with passengers frequently sharing stories of exceptional service and transformative travel experiences. The Johnson Foundation's initiatives had blossomed into a global movement. The Elevate Scholars Program produced its first wave of graduates, many of whom became trailblazers in fields like aerospace engineering, environmental science, and public policy. One such graduate, Jada Simmons, now a senior engineer at Skylex, developed a groundbreaking design for a hybrid electric cargo plane. At its unveiling, she credited the foundation for giving her the tools to succeed. "The Johnson Foundation didn't just invest in my education," Jada said. "They believed in my potential Even when I doubted myself, the Green Cities project also gained international acclaim, with eco-friendly neighborhoods thriving in countries like Brazil, Kenya, and India. These communities became models for sustainable living, improving quality of life while reducing environmental impact. As Amara grew, so did her passion for making a difference. Inspired by her parents, she pursued a degree in environmental science and later joined the Johnson Foundation to lead its sustainability initiatives. During a foundation gala, a young girl approached Amara, holding a brochure for the Elevate Scholars Program. "I want to be like you someday," the girl said shyly. Amara knelt to meet her gaze. "You already have everything you need to do great things. Just believe in yourself." Moments like these reminded Amara of her own journey and the power of inspiration to spark change. On a quiet summer evening, the Johnsons gathered on the porch of their Atlanta home. Amara, now a young adult, shared updates on the foundation's latest projects. Derek listened intently, his heart swelling with pride. Angela smiled as she watched her daughter speak. "It's incredible to see how far we've come," she said, turning to Derek. "Do you remember that day at the airport? It feels like a lifetime ago." Derek nodded. "Back then, all I could think about was how unfair it was. But looking back, it was the moment that changed everything. It pushed us to stand up, not just for ourselves, but for so many others." Angela squeezed his hand. "And we didn't do it alone. So many people joined us along the way. Priya, Harris, Kelsey, Jada. Their stories are just as much a part of this as ours." Amara leaned back, looking up at the stars. "Do you think it's possible to change the whole world?" Derek smiled. "You don't have to change the whole world at once. Just keep making ripples. Before you know it, they'll turn into waves." The Johnsons' story became a beacon of hope for countless individuals striving to overcome adversity. Their journey proved that resilience, integrity, and a commitment to justice could transform even the most challenging situations into opportunities for growth and impact. Derek and Angela's message to the world was simple, yet profound. Your voice matters. Your actions matter. And no matter how small your steps may seem, they can lead to extraordinary change. The legacy they built wasn't just about planes, programs, or projects. It was about people. It was about seeing potential where others saw limits, extending compassion where others held judgment, and choosing courage over complacency. As their story continued to inspire, the Johnson family remained true to their mission, to create a world where everyone had the chance to soar.